Good morning. Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this 18th day of September 2023. And I want to introduce the panelists here in the studio. I have Fred Okango, who is the Secretary of Political Affairs within KANU. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Nelson Koech is the Member of Parliament for Gov't, but also the Chairperson of the Defense, Foreign Relations and Intelligence Committee. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam. Good morning, Kenya.
Great. And we have Chomba here, the Chairperson of the Petroleum Outlets Association.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
And we have Senator Bill Okero, former Senator Mandera County. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Great to see you, all of you. And this morning, we're waking up to the continuing story about the impact of the prices of fuel in the country. And if you look at the Daily Nation, the main story there is death of trade unions. They're asking questions about what appears to be the silence of trade unions. They used to really represent the interest of the workers and speak out. But now, in successive governments, we are seeing that that voice is not anymore. The workers' lobbies of 2023 have lost their spark and are now a pale shadow of their former self. And then you see the cracks in Kenya Kwanza over taxes, cost of living, fuel prices of what is going on in the country. And of course, citing the figure of how much it will cost to get a litre of petrol in the country. In Nairobi specifically, it's 211 shillings 64 cents. The front page of the Standard, Kenya Kwanza, it will only get worse. In the heydays of Tanga Group, they castigated Uhuru Kenyatta as careless leader when the prices of fuel hit 134 shillings a litre. Now in government and prices well over 200 shillings, they want you to prepare for even tougher times. And you see some quotations there of Dendi Nyoro in 2022 versus Moses Kuria in 2023. At that time, in 2022, they're calling out the government. Now they're defending it and saying that this is a global issue. But of course, you've witnessed what is going on at the exchanges between Kenyans and some of the leaders, including the chairperson of the Presidential Economic Advisors Council, that is David Ndeye. And that's where I want us to begin. Honorable Nelson Koech, a lot has been going on, and the Deputy President has come out and castigated Moses Kuria and David Ndeye of what he terms insensitive talk down at the people. What is the thinking in the Kenya Kwanza circles now?
Thank you, Sam. I wouldn't really like to refer to comments by cabinet secretaries, but let me refer to what the Deputy President has said. It is extremely insensitive for any leader in the Kenya Kwanza administration to be making disparaging comments, about the state of our economy. Number one is those are sideshows. We are supposed to be focusing. It is given that no government is elected to perform miracles. Mistakes will happen, but we must admit and own on the mistakes and now focus on looking at ways to better the economy. Like I said so many times in this show, now that you've referred to the past regime, even in your earlier talk, we inherited a bleeding economy. William Ruto being that a good surgeon, the first thing when a patient comes and is bleeding is not to ask why they are bleeding. It is to stop the bleeding. That is what exactly the president was doing. Stop the bleeding of the subsidies. That was done, which was gobbling 650 billion Kenya shillings. So we stopped the hunger subsidy, we stopped the fuel subsidy, and now focused on subsidizing on production. And that is exactly where the Kenya Kwanza administration is. So any sentiments by any senior leader in Kenya Kwanza that seems to spit on the face of the Kenyan people is extremely regrettable. And as a leader in Kenya Kwanza administration, let me take this opportunity to apologize to Kenyans for any sentiments that might have been made that are insensitive to the people of this country. Our responsibility is to make sure that as a government, we deliver. We ease the burden. We campaigned on the platform of bottom-up economic model. The president has been burning the midnight oil to make sure that all these things are achieved. That is why he dropped the cost of fertilizer from 7,000 to 2,500. That will improve the production of food in the near future. In fact, people now should be preparing silos. The government should be preparing silos for storage so that we do not get into where we were last year when we were hit by the drought. The other sectors that the president is trying to manufacturing, those are the areas, industrial parks that has been opening, housing projects that has been happening. Those are things that we expect to hear, and those are things that will spur the economy of this country. I know that you will later talk about the increase in fuel prices. But I want to say that because we do not have a direct control over the rise of fuel price, it has been important then as a country to find other places where now we can use to get an advantage over the other ones. Because this, we cannot, we don't have a direct control. What are the other things that we can do to make sure that the common mwananchi is able to get prices at lower commodities? And that is part of why fertilizer was dropped, so that there is, it becomes easy even for people to access food and many other services. So in a nutshell, Sam, let me just say the comments that came from a few of our leaders is as a necessary distraction. Let's focus on the agenda at the table. Let us deliver for the people of this country. It's 1 year, and I will be enumerating shortly what we've achieved as a government in the last few 12 months of the Kenya Kwanza regime.
You just said something about 650 billion shillings. What is that?
600, that is what we believe was used by the Uhuru regime to stabilize, not to stabilize, to subsidize fuel.
Do you think that is accurate? Because we import fuel, how much? 500 million shillings a month.
How much was used in the entire subsidized program?
So,
fuel subsidy program.
I'm just trying to...
I could be wrong, but...
Because 500 million, that should be how much in a year?
How much did we have the subsidies running?
$6 billion. $6 billion.
For how long did you have the subsidies
that
running?
Amount you're talking, no, I'm saying 650 billion shillings could easily be the amount we spend on fuel to import it into the country, per se. So I don't think we are subsidizing with the same amount.
Absolutely.
As we continue with our talks, I will fact check my...
Okay. You find the figure. I'll
exact figure.
To hear from you.
But the issue is we ran off from subsidizing fuel. Yep.
Okay. Interesting. Senator,
it was unsustainable.
Senator, allow me to call you Senator Kero. Tell me about your take on what leaders are saying.
Yeah.
And even hearing the Deputy President calling out, Devin Day and Moses Kuria. What do you make of it, even as he tries to say that the government needs to stop being distracted and deliver?
I think it has become the language of this government, starting from the president, the deputy president, and like father, like son, they say, so what do you see the CSs are doing? It's what they see their boss is doing. That contemptuous attitude, we have seen, starting from the president, going out there in a public rally, calling investors cartels, by name, profiling individuals with Muhindi. That attitude of the deputy president, time and again reminding Kenyans that, this is you're not a shareholder. They're calling people all kinds of names. I think that attitude has gone down into the rank and file of the leadership, and the leadership of Kenya Kwanza. That arrogance actually is what you see a leader, a CS telling Kenyans, idlers on KOT. The whole government is on KOT. They came to power through KOT, and you're calling KOTs, Kenyans idlers. So I think that contemptuous attitude, the thinking that Kenya Kwanza leadership knows everything, that know-it-all attitude, I think is really unfortunate, and it's very, Kenyans are beginning to get tired, and the lies, figures being thrown around. For example, the 650 billion you've just mentioned, where did you get that figure? There's no amount of subsidy that the previous government spent. Is just a few billions. For maize, it's still the millers, it's still 2.5 billion the government is not able to pay. For petroleum, it's in tens of billions that eventually the government had to do a bond to try and pay them out, bail them out. So I think, generally that culture of profiling businesses, profiling individuals, calling Kenyans, who are investors, all manner of names, anybody whom the government doesn't like, you're a cartel, you're doing this and that. I think this culture must stop. You cannot attract investors into this country. When we continue disparaging, investors who are in this country, we cannot really expect goodwill of Kenyans. When Kenyans are suffering and you tell them no, You know, these are all stories of the media. It's the wrong media creating this story. There's nothing wrong in the economy. The economy has stabilized, we've been told several times. The economy is in fact tanking. That's the reality. The reality is you need to. The previous government was accused for being for lack of being in touch with reality on the ground. This is what's happening now, very fast again. You know, so the government thinks we're out there, and down there people are suffering, and we're being told no. Every day you see on TV, a minister says the price of this product is down, and Kenyans are telling them, no, we're in the shops, we don't find those prices. And you know, and government disregards all these things. I think it's time the government really appreciates that 80% of the people of this country are live on subsistence economy. They're out there. Leave Nairobi and the glass houses. Go out there and see what's going on the ground. Those people are not aware of what you talk about in your Silicon Valleys and those things you're talking about. They're worried about how to put bread and butter on the table. So you can talk about UNGA the whole of your life. Say we've invested in fertilizers and brought down but life is not about maize only. I mean, you've seen the farmers of maize saying that, you know, the fertilizers have no consequence. If the cost of fuel is going to be higher, if the cost of finance is going to be higher, if all of the costs and all of the inputs that you need to produce that UNGA is going to be high, then it doesn't make any difference to the Kenyans. So I think there's a sense in which, in my view, the government needs to take stock really and go back and really see whether they are going by their own, you know, manifesto that they laid out. We're being told time and again that the opposition is trying to rule the government from the manifesto. But what is the manifesto about? The manifesto is about, we were told prices of fuel will be kept low. And all over the world, people use subsidies. Subsidy is not a crime. Where did the government get this feeling that providing subsidy to reduce the cost of fuel is a crime? The whole of Europe is spending hundreds of billions in the last 1 or 2 years to reduce the price of energy so that the economies can survive, so that people can survive. So I think that there is a sense that the government seems to be losing, really, with regards to matters of economy, in my view, and they need to really take stock and really listen to Kenyans. Because if you don't listen, you can't have a solution for people in this country. And that was the challenge with the previous regime. And we kept repeating, even before these people were sworn in, we kept telling them, please listen to Kenyans. If you don't listen, then you're going to dig deeper into the same hole that you're saying Uhuru put us in. And we've been digging for the last 1 year. We haven't stopped digging. We're borrowing left, right, and center. We're doing the same thing, taxing Kenyans. So I think in my view, there's need for the Kenya government to take stock on the way they are dealing with issues.
And talking of digging, I want us to listen to what Moses Kuria said a few days ago, if you have that clip, and listen to his prescription for the concerns that Kenyans have raised. Do you have Moses Kuria?
Wacheni kiburi, wacheni madharau, wacheni matusi, endeni mupange mambo ya serikali. Bei ya mafuta imepanda, wananchi wanataka iteremuke.
Okay. All right. We'll get the right clip of Moses Kuria recently as he spoke about the absence of the president. But let me come to you, Fred. Your remarks about, I mean, it's been just about 3 days since the prices were announced to go up. Tell me about your thinking and what should be happening at the moment from the perspective of your coalition.
Thank you, Sam. First of all, I totally agree with the comments of Senator Kero. The government officials, in their attempt to explain and justify the increase, is very worrying. The CS Trade and Investment came out in a meeting and told the hustlers, the mamamboga, the bodabodas, that if they're making noise that the fuel cost has gone high, then they should go and find their wells and fuel from there. That statement is contemptuous. Remember, these are state officers, and I want to remind them that that authority that has been assigned to them is a public trust, and they must exercise it in a certain manner that bring respect to the office they hold and dignity to the people. Our rating of this government, as you heard the last few days, is an AD affair. Is a D affair. Is disastrous, decimal, and difficult. Kenyans have been going through difficult situations, and that's why we gave them a D-. Their performance is below the expectation of any other person, including those who voted for them. And therefore, we strongly believe that even if things are difficult, you should not go to an extent of now trying to disparage the same people that you lead. The apology by Deputy President is coming in too late. Unfortunately, as Senator said, it's coming from the choir master himself, who has been leading this. So they've been copying what he's been saying. So he cannot come and say that he is reprimanding those who are, talking ill or disparaging the people that employ them in the name of the voters. No, that is too late, too little. What we are saying, Sam, is that our colleagues from the other side, Kenya Kwanza, they have told us that we should be ready for worse times ahead. The energy CS admitted that they have nothing they can do. They have surrendered. Their economic advisor, my good friend here, has told us that, they did a surgery. There was a doctor in the name of Honorable William Ruto who has done a surgery. But the economic advisor of Honorable Ruto has told Kenyans that even the best doctors, when they perform whatever they perform on the patient still die. This is a Shakahola philosophy, where people go hungry to an extent that they die. So we are not shocked. This is not strange to the people of Kenya. The government of the day, the regime of the day has abandoned you. And they have abandoned you when you need them most. When they came into government, they promised the hustler and mamambogas that they have a plan. And I want to tell you, my friend, no amount of fertilizer will lower the cost of living for as long as the cost of fuel is still very high. It will not happen. And the Kenyans, the people of Kenya, we have told them that fasten your belt for several months, now into a year. They have done that. They have done the best they could do. It is up to your regime now to address this issue, not today, but now. Because the people of Kenya want help.
When he says that because there are certain things that are outside their control, then you focus on what is within your control, does it help?
There's a clip you've just played. In fact, if that clip would have just extended slightly, you would hear them say that time, telling Uhuru Kenyatta, that don't tell us about war in Ukraine and Russia. Today we are also telling them, don't tell us about war in Ukraine and Russia. They told Uhuru that. They said that Kenyans would go to the streets if they don't lower the cost of living, the cost of fuel. Today, we are telling them, for us, we are not going to tell Kenyans anymore to go to the streets, as Raila Odinga said. But we are telling them, you need to fix this issue now and now. Kenya Kwanza, if you look at their promises, and he says that he will be enumerating to us their successes. In the last show I was here, and I also enumerated to them where they have failed. One of the areas that they have failed that is contributing to the D- is lowering the cost of living. They told us there's a plan, and when the Bible goes down, the cost of hunger will be below 70. Today, as we speak, when the media challenges them, let's go to the supermarket and report live and see the cost of basic products, basic goods in the market, they say we call Ruiru. So if you look at some of these things, Sam, you see a regime that is not interested at all in addressing the issues of concern to the people, and specifically the cost of living. And as a coalition, as Emio, we are very much concerned. I know this is an issue for discussion at Bomas. And I know the coalition has got a position on it that they'll be tabling so that we can help the people of Kenya lower these. But as we speak now, we are worried that the regime in place is not concerned at all.
Okay, I hear you. Let's listen to that clip by Moses Kuria on what he thinks Kenyans should be doing at the moment. Watch.
Kenya haitaendelea kwa kuweka sufuria kwa kichwa. Sasa ukishinda kutoka asubuhi mpaka jioni, bei ya mafuta imeongezeka, si uchipe kisima yako.
Now, Martin, that's the Trade Cabinet Secretary, and he even said that if you identify hicho kisima, he's ready to come and drill it. Have you gotten to that point? Is it beyond our control that much?
So thank you. First of all, I would want to probably just give a perspective because the panelists that I am with, at least they are known and they know, everybody knows where they are. I would want to first of all say that I'm a representative. I'm a representative of the oil traders. Yeah. The guys, every village you come from has this one person that is selling some petrol with borders and such. Right. Those are the people that I represent through an organization we call Petroleum Outlets Association of Kenya. Right. And actually, we are the guys who are involved in the last mile transportation and dispensation of oil in this country. As such, we are among the people who get to know exactly what happens within the trade of petroleum. As a person, I have been in the industry for 25 years, from selling ile ya mkebe through the value chain. So I would claim a bit of authority in as much as I may not know very much, but at least I have some authority when it comes to the trade of petroleum in this country. Right. And I want to start by saying that, as I said the other day, and I've said this severally, in this country, in Kenya, we do not have what you call a petroleum industry. We have petroleum logistics industry. What do I mean? When I say that we have a petroleum logistic industry, is that we get fuel. We start trading with petroleum as from Mombasa once that petroleum lands and it's imported by the big guys, the oil marketers. Right. Then we distribute it within the country. For the last few years, like 3 years, 2 years now, we have had a lot of problems within the value chain, and these value chain problems were brought about by the thing that we are very fond of calling a subsidy. Because when subsidy happens, remember in Kenya we are a capitalist society with a free market economy. Mm-hmm. So what most people do not know is that when you introduce subsidy at the retail, that distorts the market system. Because the subsidy is not introduced and the government has money to give at the point of subsidy. So what the government does is that it stays with that money until they will get money. For instance, I'll tell you this. The reason why we were having a petroleum crunch last year around April is because of the thing called subsidy. If today we went subsidy way, I can authoritatively tell you a lot of oil marketers were opting out of importation business. Why? Because this time round, they know that the government does not have money. The previous regime, they did not know whether they will get, what time they will get money. So they kept in hope that they will get money. And they kept on importing and extending their credit lines. So what that did is the bill accumulated to about 60-something billion Kenya shilling. So what happened, that bill was passed over to the next government and they were not paid in time. So when the time came that the government had to pay them, they had to opt to a bond. The problem with that is most of these guys were paid, the subsidy happened when the dollar was trading at around 120. Yes. But the time they were getting the subsidy, the payment through a bond, the dollar was trading at around 145. So the kind of losses that they went through, what we call the forex exposure, is astronomical. So most of these guys, when any time they are hearing about a subsidy coming on, most of them were opting not to import fuel. What does that spell? Did your members benefit from the subsidy themselves? No, our members actually did not benefit from that subsidy because the arrangement with the oil marketers that the government had with the oil marketers is that you remove what we call the wholesale capping. Because they argue, the multinationals argue, that you cannot tell us that you'll hold our money for long and then again cap us on wholesale. So we want to recoup our profits through wholesale when you remove the cap. So what did that do? It took the prices of fuel that I, who is a retailer, was buying almost at the same price, sometimes even higher, at the price that is given at the pump. And at the same time, EPRA has given me a cap that I cannot sell beyond this. And remember, the role of EPRA is just one, to just give the prices. The government does not have even 1 liter of oil. That all the product that is sold in this country belongs to the multinational who answers to their whole shareholders. So if the business is not making any profits for them, they go down. So what happens? We were left with 2 options in this country. Either we get very expensive fuel or we have no fuel at all. Because what happened last year is when the subsidy regime was introduced, most of us closed our stations. The guys at the last mile. To give you a perspective, people don't know this because I don't know why the petroleum and energy sector has been shrouded with a lot of secrecy. Out of 4,300 petrol stations in this country, the one we call non-franchised or independent are 67%. Out of these 68%, out of these 68%, they are the ones that fuels the local economy. Every village that you see, every village that each of us comes from, there's those guys who are selling that fuel out there. That accounts for about 50% of the throughput of the petroleum sold in this country. So when you lock that value chain in distribution is what precipitated the last crisis.
So just hold on. Recently we had the stabilization,
yes,
price stabilization.
Yes.
Did you benefit from that?
No, stabilization, and this is the other thing that people don't understand. By every liter of petroleum you consume in this country, super and diesel, the government stores 5 shillings and 40 cents. So that is money that is saved somewhere. So the minute they introduce stabilization, that money is available for that. When you talk about subsidy...
Did you get it?
It is not given to us. It's given now to the oil marketers. Stabilization is okay, but subsidy becomes a problem because it comes with a condition that they remove something we call the wholesale cap. So the people that I represent do not get their value within the value chain. So most of them opt now to close down.
Okay, I want us to take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation, but also trying to understand what the Energy Ministry has been saying in as far as the control of what that inflow from outside is, and they are saying that it's actually going to get us in the coming months. The Trade Cabinet Secretary estimates that a litre of petrol will become more expensive by 10 shillings every month. What shall we do? After the break, stay tuned.